been a while since I played this game. This is Mafia, Definitive Edition. So when I first heard about Mafia Heat, Streets on Fire, I thought, sweet. We get to play as Joe from Mafia 2 in an open world like Mafia 2. Well, no, that didn't happen. But what did happen was a fairly decent open world action game with some Mafia-inspired missions and characters. So let's talk about it. The story takes place in 1968 in the fictional city of Roaring Forks, which is based off of Miami. It follows the story of Kyle, who is a young Cuban exile who has just arrived in Roaring Forks. The opening sequence does a good job of establishing this alternate history, where Fidel Castro and his army take over the state of Florida and then split it into two separate states, one north and one south. The north becomes the autonomous state of Florida, while the South remains under the control of the U.S. government and is now known as the Republic of Miami. After a fun little side-scrolling beat-em-up segment, we are then introduced to Kyle, who's being dropped off by a smuggler in the fictional Red River neighborhood of Roaring Forks. Cutscene plays. He runs away from some guys that killed his family. You then get to control him as he runs through the streets and performs a parkour sequence to escape. And then once you get to a safe house, you get cuccined again, and he lives happily ever after. Just kidding. Yes, that wasn't how the game went at all. After the cutscene, you get to explore this open-world neighborhood a little bit, but not for long because right after that, another cutscene happens. You may have noticed during those opening moments that the graphics looked pretty dated. This game was released in 2023, and the graphics don't exactly hold up to today's standards. Now, personally, I think it still looks pretty good. However, compared to other games released in 2023, it definitely suffers in comparison. This kind of reminds me of Red Dead Redemption 2, but with way less polish. There's also some pretty weird lighting effects going on here. Like, check out these reflections. They look terrible. But anyway, after that cutscene chain is over, you finally get to play the game. Your main character, Kyle Crane, is voiced by Tom Hopper. And if that name sounds familiar, it's probably because he was also the voice of Jason Todd, aka the second Robin in Batman, The Death in the Family. So cool. Before getting the game started, I did a quick Google search to see if I could find out why Kyle sounds so familiar, and turns out he is actually the lead actor from the TV show Umbrella Academy, which I watched and enjoyed. He did a pretty good job voicing Kyle. Unlike most open-world games, there's no tutorial, so suddenly you're just expected to know how to play. The controls feel a little floaty, especially when driving. Your character moves pretty slowly too, which can be annoying. And after playing a bunch of other open-world games recently, I found the camera to be a bit clunky. Also, if you run while aiming, your crosshair disappears. This was very annoying for me, because I kept forgetting this was an option. And then I would miss shot after shot. Luckily, the combat is pretty easy, so it doesn't matter too much if you miss a few shots. As far as cover goes, the game seems to want you to use it, but your character will occasionally peek around corners, which makes me question whether or not it's even possible to go fully prone. The answer is no. You can go behind objects, but you can't lay flat on the ground. And sometimes when you try to move behind cover, your character will literally walk into traffic to get to it. Not sure why. One thing I'm really liking about the game, though, is the variety of weapons. There's a lot of guns to choose from, but melee weapons seem to be completely absent. The main story missions aren't too hard to find. You just follow your blue mission marker on the map, and it'll lead you to whatever you need to do next. Side quests appear as white icons on your map. At first, there aren't many of them, but as you progress through the game, more and more will become available. As far as side quests go, there's races, treasure hunts, hidden packages, and a few other miscellaneous things. Most of them are pretty short and easy. What surprised me about this game is how many cutscenes there are. I thought it would be a normal open-world game, where you just drive from point A to point B. But instead, like every 5 minutes, another cutscene would play. Some of them make sense, and others are just weird. Like this one where all of the characters are dancing in the street. It felt random. If you like exploring off the beaten path, you're going to love this game, because there's a ton of stuff to find. I mean, seriously, a ton of stuff. When you find certain items, they'll be added to your office as decorations. As far as collectibles go, there's newspapers, comic books, porn magazines, and car parts. While exploring, I found all sorts of interesting things like dead bodies, moonshine stills, abandoned cars, and crashed planes. Oh, and watch out for quicksand. Yeah, there's quicksand in this game. Apparently it's common in this area. I just pulled my car over, got out, walked into the sand, and died. There's a bunch of different activities you can participate in, like drinking, bowling, racing, golfing, and hunting. I tried the hunting, and apparently the shotgun doesn't work, so I couldn't complete that one. What's funny, though, is that you can pick up and throw any animal carcass around like a rag doll. There's also planes, boats, and motorcycles in the game, but they don't really do anything. You can't race planes. You can't do anything with the boats, and motorcycles don't have a purpose either. Something I was really impressed by is the radio stations. There's a good amount of them, and each one has a different style of music, and some even have DJs who talk between songs. Something I noticed is that whenever you enter a new area, new radio stations unlock, and then when you leave that area, they get removed. I found this to be a little annoying because there were times where I wanted to listen to my favorite radio station, but I had to drive back into a previous area to unlock it again. There's also a jukebox in your office that you can purchase records for and play music while you renode on a mission. Another thing that surprised me is that this game has a day and night cycle as well as a weather system. Since this is a Mafia game, there are a bunch of Mafia-related activities, like hijacking cargo, robbing stores, breaking into houses, and killing people's loved ones. Wait, I'm just kidding. That last one isn't actually a side quest. I wish it was, though. That would be hilarious. So far, I haven't seen any evidence of pedestrians having AI. They just kind of stand there. Whenever you run into one of them, the collision doesn't even register half the time. Sometimes you can run straight through them. Other times you can't. And if you're wondering if you can kill civilians, the answer is yes. When it comes to saving and loading, this game has both an autosave feature as well as manual save points. You can also load any save point you want at any time. So if you mess up, you can just reload and try again. The pause menu gives you options for configuring the controls as well as changing the game's audio and video settings. There's also a settings menu where you can configure options like subtitles and camera sensitivity. Now there's a multiplayer mode, but I didn't play it. It's nothing special. You just team up with other players and do co-op missions. Now let's talk about performance. This game runs great on my PC. I'm using a 3700X CPU and an RTX 2700 GPU. In pairing with my 16 gigs of RAM, I can get a solid 60 FPS with medium graphic settings. Even when there's a bunch of action happening on screen, the frame rate stays above 60. I've also tested it on an i5-4460 and an RX 580, which are both older cards, and I was still able to get decent gameplay at lower settings. This game gets an 8 out of 10 from me. If you enjoy open-world games, especially ones with stories revolving around the Mafia, you should definitely consider picking this one up. For me, the story, setting, and characters were the highlight. Sure, the graphics could be better, but I found the general gameplay to be enjoyable enough to keep me interested.